All right, so there is one segment that I kind of accidentally skipped over
Okay.
in between the Cesaro Kofi and Torito Dallas thing. So John Cena was backstage and Seth Rollins walked in, and Rollins says that he wants to have a civilized conversation. Tonight isn't about cashing in; it's about who's the best. Maybe he will cash in once he proves he's the best, or maybe if something happens to Cena, he'll cash in then. Cena says Rollins is full of crap and that Rollins is damn good, but he says something bad about the new ring gear, which is just stupid. And then he guarantees that Rollins is in for the night of his life tonight. So not really a super important segment, but I figured it was worth mentioning because I did accidentally skip it. So anything to say about that?
No, I mean, I was happy to hear Cena concede that Rollins is actually good, really good, in his words, which I approved of. It was nice to see Cena actually put somebody over for a change, like in that kind of promo, like Rollins' cockiness. But yeah, nothing more to say than that.
Yeah. So that's a perfect transition, though, because up next was Cena versus Rollins.
Okay, what did you think of this match? Because to me,
It wasn't nearly as good as the match that they had in December.
I first of all completely agree. Second of all, for me, and again, maybe it just came down to me because I liked what they did in the ring. I liked the back and forth they had. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the real meat and potatoes of this whole thing was when it broke down and we had the post match segment. Like that's when I really felt really engaged again. I enjoyed this, but again, I just think I knew Rollins wasn't going to get the clean win, and to be honest, I had a hunch Cena wouldn't either. I knew it was going to be a breakdown, so maybe I was just kind of forward thinking, just looking forward to that. And the breakdown to me didn't disappoint. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah. I mean, the breakdown wasn't bad. Man, that's the thing, though. Like, these breakdowns are all starting to look the same. That's why I said at the beginning of that this was cookie cutter.
Yeah, because Roman. Oh well, no. Let me backtrack. Kane and Orton come out. They're putting the boots to Cena. It's whatever. Roman Reigns then comes out. He nails a Superman punch to his music, by the way, which I know we've had that gripe with Rey
Yeah,
Mysterio.
dude, I immediately thought of that. Like, really, Roman, you had to wait for your freaking music to hit to come out to help Cena. I mean, I guess in a way it almost makes more sense because he's kind of proving that he's not interested in saving Cena. He's just interested in kicking ass and taking names. But on that same note, it's always been a pet peeve of mine when guys waited for their music to hit to come out.
I mean, as much as I love Roman Reigns, I chuckle to myself because I just think to myself, this is the same guy that always moves his hair out of his face before all the big offense. Like, got to make sure my camera gets my good side, or should I say, my
Yeah.
every side. So he comes out, Superman punch to Kane, Superman punch to Orton, as if the Superman punch wasn't OP enough. He takes both of them out back to back. Battleground. More like my ground that you're just living on. He looks like maybe he'd do something to Cena, though I doubt it. Before Rollins cuts in, he nails the briefcase to the back of Roman Reigns' head. Then he nails a wicked shot right in the face of Cena with it, which I thought was great. Cena was out. They were really playing that up. Then Rollins calls over a ref. It looks like he's about to cash in, but then I am assuming from the crowd comes Dean Ambrose.
Well, I mean, the crowd popped immediately when they saw him, so we didn't even need to see him on camera before we knew that he was there.
Right, right. And for the second week in a row, Dean Ambrose coming through on his promise. I've said it before.
Has it really only been 2 weeks? It feels like it's been so much longer.
I think, yeah, as far as cash-in attempts go, yeah, he tried cashing in last week on Raw, and then again this week. So, yeah.
Just seems like so much longer.
2 weeks down, and I mean, we don't know if Rollins will try on SmackDown, but just I guess to keep it simple, if we just assume that he'd try every Raw, 2 weeks down, 50 weeks to go. So we'll see if Dean can keep it up. I mean, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and it's only because it's these two guys. If it was any other two guys, I don't think I'd be so ready to say it. I do hope they do it. I do hope, like, somehow, some way, even if Dean is in a freaking wheelchair, he finds a way to, stop Rollins. Hell, I get scared, hopefully, that nobody gets hurt during the course of this whole storyline. Otherwise, I try and find a way. Well, maybe Dean hacks into the pyro or something. Maybe he's working with Solomon Crow. They hack into the pyro and do that kind of distract Rollins. But because I just want to see him keep mucking up the cash-ins for Seth Rollins. I just find it hilarious, and it's great television. They had a great brawl all the way to the back. Randy Orton comes back in. He tries to nail an RKO on Cena, but of course Cena, after, getting hit in the face with a briefcase, he's not having that, so he nails an attitude adjustment. Kane throttles Cena by the throat, and to be honest, I thought we were going to see a second attitude adjustment at that point. But Roman Reigns cuts back in with a spear, and we have a stare down that's not nearly as awkward as the stare down from last week between Roman Reigns and Triple H, but it even has a comical element at the end because Roman Reigns, he raises Cena's hand to booze. Cena's kind of like, yeah, whatever, must be a day that ends in Y. Cena raises Roman Reigns' hand, gets a massive pop, for Reigns. So I guess in their own way, they're teasing that changing of the guard. And as if, crowd reaction was indicative of that, in which case everybody would have taken Cena's guard by now. And that's pretty much how Raw closes. Yeah, again, I enjoyed that, enjoyed Ambrose Orton, enjoyed really anything involving any of the three guys, but outside of that, there was very little that I found enjoyable about this Raw. This is a very meh Raw for me.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the closing segment of this Raw, here's the weird thing. The closing segment of last week's Raw was a sneak preview of SummerSlam 2014. I feel like the closing segment of this week's Raw is a free preview of WrestleMania 35.
35? Interesting.
Closing segment, John Cena walking out into the sunset, raising Roman Reigns' hand in victory, passing the torch, that whole story.
Yeah, because you know what? If they would play it up as Cena, retiring and this and that, 35 is realistic. Because I was going to say, I could see Cena and Roman Reigns on a collision course at WrestleMania 32.
Yeah, I could see that too. But I think they'll wait. I think they'll wait until Cena's ready to give it up.
I like your logic, though, because it just makes it seem that much more monumental, especially because it would be a legit retirement and not like, oh, no, Cena's joined the Nexus. Oh, no, he's freed. No, he's fired. You're right. I'm sorry. None of that crap.
That was ridiculous.
My favorite moment in commentary history not involving Jim Ross.
That freaking failure.
Oh, it's so good, though. It's so good. Anyway. That was so good, and this Raw was so meh, so I guess with that said, we can get right into our next segment, high spots and low shots. And I will say my low shot is The Miz. Even though we gave him credit for a heel character, the fact was he was embarrassed by Jericho the week before. This was Jericho's first match back, as well as Miz's, really, all things considered. So, yeah, this is his first outing back as well. He's talking about, how he wants to make the Ascension back to WrestleMania for WrestleMania 31. Well, this was a horrible start because it was a tap out for Miz, gave up to the walls of Jericho. Did not work out for him. Miz is my low shot.
Yep. Let's see. My low shot is Cesaro because expectations, Kofi Kingston, etc., etc.
Completely agree. Can't really add too much more to that. My high spot, you know what? It may seem cheaty given the circumstances. My high spot's going to be Dean Ambrose, and I'll tell you why. The guy had an excellent matchup with Randy Orton. Came incredibly close to winning, and that was after eating a DDT on the outside. But more importantly, after having a match that physical where he took a bump like that and an RKO, and you don't really know the state of his health, kayfabe-wise, still comes through on his promise for the second week in a row and ruins Seth Rollins' chances of becoming a champion. Yeah. That's commitment.
It is. It is.
Yeah, I'm going to reward him for that. Dean Ambrose is my high spot this week.
And you know what? I'll stick to the theme. My high spot will be Roman Reigns because tonight was really his night. He really stepped up. He opened the show and closed the show. What more is there to say?
Nothing. You're absolutely on point. With that said, let's get into our last formal segment before we wrap this up. Raw request. And given this Raw, I'm actually very intrigued to hear what your request might be, given especially that you had. Well,
I have a very short, concise, and easy to do request that's probably not ever going to happen.
What's that?
No, you're going first.
Oh, I'm going first.
Yeah.
Well, my request last week was for WWE, to utilize their first weeks, going into a new pay-per-view to book their more stuff. We'll see if that applies when they head into SummerSlam. I don't see why it wouldn't. So for this, you know what? I'm going to say, make more legitimate heels on your show. Maybe, I don't know, polish Damian Sandow, do something, because again, it's not just the fact that it's The Miz personally. It's the fact that he was really the only one, maybe right behind Rusev, but Rusev comes with a boatload of contingencies. That's a problem. Make more legitimate heels and do it on your flagship show. So that's my Raw request.
My Raw request is very simple. Fire Kevin Dunn.
That's it.
No, I mean, dude, Kevin Dunn is one of the higher ups. He is basically directly in Vince McMahon's ear. He is responsible for attempting to bury every NXT talent that gets called up, whether it's Big E, Paige, Adam Rose, doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, he is also in control of camera angles. And some of the camera angles tonight were, I mean, to call them pathetic would be an insult to pathetic things everywhere. He literally cut the camera away during multiple finishes tonight and did not see finishing moves because of it. It is, I would say it's unacceptable, but to imply that it's unacceptable would imply that somehow or another Vince McMahon would fire him for it. And at the end of the day, at this rate, I don't think that anything Kevin Dunn does is unacceptable in the eyes of Vince McMahon, because I don't think Dunn is going to lose his job until Vince either retires or dies.
That really was concise. I mean, especially that finish. I mean, that gets right to the heart of matters. You know what, dude? It sickens me too. Look, if anything that you and I have read about the whole Kevin Dunn, Triple H, Vince McMahon power dynamics is true, because I always read those things very tentatively, because you're talking about very serious things. But if it's
well, and you know what though, dude? On Reddit, I actually read on Reddit a guy who used to work for the company who knows Kevin Dunn, who has worked around Kevin Dunn. And Dunn is one of those kind of guys where as soon as you leave the room, he's in Vince's ear burying you. He is that much of a corrupt politician. It's pathetic.
It sickens me that a guy like that could have that kind of job security, which that's a whole other commentary, which I'm not even going to touch as much as I want to. And it's a shame that he can have all of those mock-ups, with the camera and everything else, and fight Triple H. And that's why, anytime I see a bad segment, it's funny because I struggle with myself and I think, well, was that Triple H or was that Kevin? Like, who was it? Who was it that did this?
You need to understand, dude, lately, I mean, ever since that head writer got fired, it has been all Vince all the time, which means that Kevin Dunn is in his ear just saying, yes, sir, yes, absolutely, you are correct, this is the right thing to do, because that's exactly what Kevin Dunn is. He's a yes man whose only opinions are negative ones about everyone but himself and Vince.
And then there you go, because I just have this strong gut feeling that if it was on Triple H's watch, this Raw, I'm not saying it would have been super stellar, oh my god, the best Raw ever, but I am saying that I have very strong confidence in Triple H that one arm tied behind your back segment between Alicia Fox and Nikki Bella would not have happened.
Dude, that had Kevin Dunn written all over it.
Yeah, and see, I agree. I would hope that when Triple H,
only Kevin Dunn could come up with a segment that has a female being portrayed as so stupid that a hand being tied behind her back causes her to be unable to run away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the way Triple H, because NXT is his baby and everything, and the way he portrays women there, and that's really what I'm basing this on, I can't imagine that he'd make that kind of idiotic booking. I can't even conceive of it. That needs to happen.
Dude, there has been one non-wrestling segment between two female wrestlers in NXT at Full Sail history, and it was a dance-off between Summer Rae and Emma, and it was done tastefully and received incredibly well.
Right. Yeah, no, yeah, that's the thing. It was so well done. I remember that segment. I had fun with that segment, and I completely agree with you. There are other ways to use women, not in a legitimate wrestling capacity, even though that's always going to be preferred for me because they just have so much capability and potential. But yeah, that's the personality side of it. And that's another thing, too. Triple H knows how to tap into that as well. I just feel like people like Kevin Dunn, they're just so stuck. They're just so stuck in what works, and it doesn't work. You know what? I have said before that I co-sign onto your Raw requests. I would sign on to this in anything, including my own blood, if it meant making it happen. That's how strongly I support this particular Raw request of yours, probably more than I've supported any Raw request that you've come out with, simply because of the urgency that this needs to happen. Because if NXT is a microcosmic universe in what the entirety of WWE could be, I just want Triple H to get on that horse, ride down Sunset Boulevard, and never look back. I really do. I feel like it's ridiculous that guys like this have power and political comfort when Triple H is trying his best to make this a worthwhile product. And there's a lot good about it. But this Raw tonight, man, is just so with me. I'm just nothing more to say than that.
Yeah, there you go. Close it out.
Yeah, there you go. With that said, guys, this has been Raw. This has been TwitWow, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to subscribe and comment on YouTube, discuss on Pweetoff, and the great news for everybody involved is that we go back to NXT this Thursday night. I'm assuming Sami Zayn is going to team up with Adrian Neville against Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel. It's certain to be a high-flying affair. I can't wait for it. See you guys then.